Good morning and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. A couple of things to talk to you about this week. Don't forget, Build is coming up in around about a month's time, and so probably you're going to see some announcements being held back for that. So we are maybe in for a couple of weeks of maybe slightly quieter quieter weeks in terms of announcements and things. But we'll see. There's still plenty of things going on. And actually, that's one of the things I want to talk about first, actually, which is around the SharePoint framework, which is obviously something that happens, being led out in the Microsoft 365 team, of particular interest to kind of SharePoint developers, but also lots of Microsoft Teams developers super interested in the SharePoint framework as a quick way of getting things done, or a different deployment mechanism. Because a lot of the SharePoint framework applications work just as well in Teams as well, and more recently the framework has kind of evolved, if you like, to also be something that you can use in Teams, you can use in SharePoint Online as well, but also Viva connections as well. So it's becoming more and more useful as a mechanism, as a framework of building things. And one of the things I really like about the SharePoint framework is that they being Microsoft and the team that work on it they spend a lot of time doing it, and they've done it over a long period of time. They are committed to keeping it up to date and keeping it current and evolving it, and I really like to see that. Quite often, you'll see people work on an SDK or a project or something, and they do the first version, and maybe a couple after that, and then it kind of dies off a little bit. But with this SharePoint framework, they're now up to version 15. And so it kind of shows that they really are investing in the framework as a tool for developers, and that's really good to see. So, show you the blog post. So this is Vasa's blog post talking about an updated preview of 1.115. So not quite a 1.16, but like an updated version. And they're planning on GAing in June is the current estimate. But obviously, take those dates. They're not fixed in stone. So the idea is it'll kind of GA when it's ready. But right now you've got the an updated preview. A couple of big changes to kind of be aware of. I think the big one, as you can see in this screenshot, is more customizations for forms and custom views in forms. So there's a video. There's not quite the documentation for it yet, but there is a good video you can go and watch. You can watch Vasa do it. You should watch Vasa's videos anyway for a great demonstration of what it's like to give a good demonstration. So if you want to see a good video demo, go watch that video. And then there's also some other bug fixes and issues and stuff like that. So this is all good to see. Again, I would say it's not a huge release, but what's really interesting to me is that it's happening at all, and it shows that commitment, the cadence of releases, and so I think that's really good. So that's of interest to you if you already work with the SharePoint framework, and if you don't, then it might be something to look into, because it could be an interesting way to develop your next application. All right, let's look at something else, and let's cross technologies a little bit to Azure Communication Services, and let's talk about UI library updates. So we've known for a while, so you've got Azure Communication Services, which is the platform, which is the capability Microsoft have now to embed voice and video functionality and communications features inside applications for developers. And then built on top of that, there's a UI library, which makes it easier for developers to add some of those functionalities in and add those capabilities in. Because if you think about, let's say making a video call, there's actually quite a lot of UI componentry there in terms of, the camera, like the feed, the video feed, the vanity feed, the buttons that everyone expects to do things like mute and full screen and hang up, and you've got device changing of the audio and the video. You've got the participant list. You've got all sorts of things. If you want to have chat, there's a whole other set of controls and components, and they're all fairly similar. So the Azure Communication Services team have published a library, and they've got a few different versions of the library because, a few different technologies. There's a web version, there's a mobile version, and there's new capabilities for both of these. So for the web one, there's a new composite. So let's talk about composites and what they are. You've got the components, which are individual component pieces. So a participant list, or a set of buttons, or the video feed, or the vanity feed, or something like that. And then if you combine those together to a composite component, you can kind of basically plug them all together and you get, something that's much bigger. So for instance, an entire video call, or in case of this new one, call with chat. So the idea of a call that also supports chat. Now, if you know anything about Azure Communication Services, you'll know that chat is actually very separate from voice and audio calling, even though you might not think about it. If you didn't know that, you'd think, oh, chat's just the same. Actually, it's not. Under the hood, there's actually quite big differences. So this is nice that there's a composite called Call with Chat that is going to, abstract, some of that difference. So that's good to see. There's also an updated version of the mobile library, and includes some stuff for screen sharing and content and zooming of that screen sharing, some localization stuff, a couple of bug fixes. So if you're already using the UI library, you just want to make sure you're on the latest version. If you haven't yet tried the UI libraries, you really should. I did a talk about it at Teams Nation recently, so you can go check that out because it's on YouTube. Just kind of look up Teams Nation and look for some of their videos, and I used the composite controls in that to build a voice video experience as part of the session. So if you want an example of how that works, you can kind of go and watch that. But yeah, they're a really nice way of getting started. You don't have to use them, and if you don't like the layout, if you don't like the design that they have, you are free to change it. But the idea is it gets you started, and if you aren't particularly precious about what the experience looks like, but you want to quickly throw up a proof of concept or just integrate voice and video into your application and worry about like the design and style later, then the composite controls are a really nice way of letting you do that. Cool. All right, one more thing I want to talk about, and this is a funny one. Well, I think it's funny. Microsoft Teams. So this is Mary Jo Foley. This is all about Microsoft, her blog over at ZDNet, and the title here is Microsoft Teams app. Microsoft Teams app is coming to the Microsoft Store. So those of you with really long memories will remember when Teams first launched in 2017, I think. It was odd in that it wasn't in the Microsoft Store, because at the time Microsoft were really all about the Microsoft Store, and all the good apps are in the Microsoft Store according to Microsoft, and if that's where you should be. But also you had to have a UWP app to be in the Microsoft Store. Then Teams came out and it wasn't a UWP app, even though kind of if you if you kind of filled in the questionnaire, if you like, of what you're building, you'd come up with, surely there should be a UWP app. It was a desktop application. It had to be on multiple browsers. It was, that kind of thing. It wasn't, I don't know, whatever. It wasn't a UWP app. They chose Electron as their delivery mechanism, and Electron apps were not supported in the store, so Teams wasn't in the store. At the time, they did actually say it is coming soon. So back in 2017, Microsoft did say, actually, no, it is coming to the store pretty soon. Don't worry about it. And the funny thing is, actually, 5 years later, it is now actually really coming soon because it's shown up in the Microsoft 365 roadmap. I think this is kind of interesting because what's changed, well, one of two things is going to happen, right? Because interestingly, if you look at the roadmap item and look at the description, and let me just show you Mary Jo's blog post because she calls this out as well. So this is her blog post, and it's this bit I wanted to talk about because the roadmap actually talks about Microsoft Teams talking about work, school, and consumer accounts on Windows 10 and work or school accounts on Windows 11. So what that tells me is that this is the OG version of Teams. It's not the new version that's bundled into Windows 11. So that also tells me it's Electron, and so if it's coming into the store, then I think the most likely thing that's happened is that the requirements for the store have changed. And I did see this a while back. I'm not going to be able to find the I'm not going to be able to find any kind of references to it, but I'm certain a little while ago Microsoft said that more apps would be available in the store, and they were lifting that requirement for it just to be UWP. They would allow like multiple other types of application in the store. I'm wondering if that's why that Teams can now be in the store, because actually it's not so much a bunch of work that's happened on the Teams side, it's more that the requirements for getting to the store have loosened a little bit, and Teams is now eligible in a way that it wasn't before. Don't know, just kind of guessing on that. Don't know. I don't see the new version that Microsoft are rewriting. So we know as well that Microsoft are rewriting Teams away from Electron using a WebView 2 control, so that will make it more of a native application on Windows. I don't see that being the version that makes it into the store, but I could be wrong. But we'll see. So kind of interest, I guess. Not specific to development, but just kind of interesting. Interesting to go and see. Like, it's interesting back in 2017 when Microsoft said, yes, it is coming to the store soon. We all kind of, I did anyway, inferred that maybe Teams was going to be rewritten as a UWP app. That hasn't happened, and I don't think it ever will now. It's going to make the jump straight to kind of something native that uses the WebView 2 control. I mean, it could still be a UWP app. There's no reason it couldn't be, I suppose. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. So, interesting times for Teams. Interesting times for the store. And, it would be nice to have Teams in the store, because actually I don't know how you get Teams desktop these days. Like, I don't know. Like, it's fed you fairly aggressively, actually, from the web version. And that tends to be how I tend to download it if I need it. I kind of go to it on the web and wait to be told, you should really download this, and then that's how I get it. But I'm sure there is a page you can go to download it if you need to. All right, like I say, a fairly quiet week, I guess. There is a blog post I'm putting together early part of next week. So you can kind of look out for that. That should be kind of interesting, I suppose. Only in terms of like new functionality. That is, I'm just kind of looking to see what I can talk about now. Just kind of looking at new functionality that's come to Graph to enable some interesting new things for Teams applications and around video. So if that sounds interesting, look out for that. I'm going to try and get that out tomorrow or today, maybe. We'll see. All in all, whatever it is you're doing this week, I hope you have a good one. I hope it's productive and fun, and I will talk to you again next time.